Well, hello everyone. I always wanted to give a presentation with one of those, because then I can do this and I can do that. You know? And then at the end, I'm probably gonna drop the mic. Just so you know. Okay, thanks everyone for coming to this session. My name is Enrico Campidoglio, and I work at a company called Triton 37, which, as I'm told, you guys know by fame. And if you don't know, Triton is the Swedish spelling of the word 13, the number 13. So 1337 is the leet speak for leet, for you nerds out there. Okay, so this session is about code reviews. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So, I spend half of my time working as a consultant. And the other half of my time, I spend it working as a programmer.
Nice photo.
Thanks. Actually, it's me when I was young. But when talking about code reviews, I want to especially focus on one thing. And this thing is, why are we not doing enough code reviews? So, let me ask you, how many of you are doing code reviews at your workplace right now? Okay, so that's almost everyone. Well, I have nothing to tell you then. You're already doing code reviews. Okay, let me be more specific. How many of you are doing it like as a regular practice on every code commit? You guys, you're too good. Okay, let's pretend that you don't do that. So code reviews, right? So as I like to say, you want to merge? Let's talk about it first. Not so fast, right? And when I talk about code reviews, I take into account two aspects of it. And that's the individuals and processes part. And then there is the processes and, processes and tools part, yes. Or, in more readable terms, it's like human stuff and computer stuff. Because turns out, I know, well, at least I did, I started programming because I didn't want to deal with people. I just wanted to deal with machines. And then it turns out that programming is all about dealing with people. Bummer. So code reviews are as much about people as they are about tools. So let's tackle both sides. And let's look into why are we not doing enough code reviews. Because in the publishing world, for books and articles, no written word ever sees the light of day unless it's reviewed by at least a dozen people. Right? So for articles, you have this editor. Editor is the person who is checking that the article follows the magazine's tone and the audience. For books, you also have editors, and then if you're writing a technical book, then it's going to be reviewed by the people who are experts in that subject, okay? At least 20 of them. So the written word is being reviewed a lot. And code is arguably also a written word. So why is it not reviewed that much? Why are we just, committing code happily every day? Well, there are a few problems with code reviews. And as with all problems, especially human-related problems, it's really hard to say what it is until it actually hits you in the face. And then it's too late to solve it, right? So let's give it a couple more spins. Yes, look at it. Oh, I'm happy. The first problem, as I see it, is ego. Now, programmers tend to be a bunch of opinionated people with strong opinions and very proud too. And that doesn't really work well always when you have your code reviewed by someone else, right? But let's consider this. Ego is inversely proportional to knowledge. So the more knowledge you have, the lesser the ego you should have, and the other way around. One of the things they say about programming is that in order to be a good programmer, you should kill your ego. I don't agree with that. Ego is a good thing to have. Or rather, pride. You should be proud about what the work you do. You just shouldn't think that the work you do is the best, because there is no such thing as the perfect code, right? So ego is one problem, and the other problem is identifying yourself with your code. And I'm sure all programmers recognize that, right? You write a piece of code, and then it's like an extension of your soul. It's like it's you. That code has your face. And when someone is criticizing that code, it's like they're criticizing you directly. Take it personal. And then you get all defensive. So that's another problem. And then there is this fear of making mistakes. Like you don't want your peers to see or to notice that you made a mistake. Okay? Because you think that you are this super programmer and everything you do is perfect and you should never make mistakes. So this fear is a blocker for code reviews. We don't want to be laughed at by our peers, programmers. So that's the ego part. Let's look at culture, or rather, lack of culture. And we're talking about culture in the team, or culture in the company, or whatever scale you want. Okay? Because sometimes the culture is very criticizing. It gets personal. So instead of giving good, constructive feedback, it's all about, you're wrong. What's this? What's this piece of crap? Sorry. What is this shit? Sorry again. You don't know how to do this. Let me show you how to do this. Okay? So it gets really rough. It gets really negative. And then the person who's being reviewed, they actually close themselves and then don't want to hear it anymore. It's like, ah. And then there is the third aspect, and the third aspect is time. So code reviews take time, and we can really escape from that fact. However, there are a few things you can do to solve that problem. But as I said, we don't want to be interrupted as a programmers. That's actually, this graph shows the productivity for an average geek. And so that is the day, the hours of the day on the x-axis. And you see those dips, those red dots, that's when someone is interrupting you. Like, okay, sorry, did you get my email? Or did you hear the phone ringing when I called you? Or can you review my code, right now? And then you lose focus, right? Programmers tend to like when they get into the flow. They are focused on what they're doing, they close out the outside world, and they're really, really productive. What happens when someone taps on our shoulder? So let's look at how it looks like. You always recognize this. You're looking at a piece of code, and then you start building context in your head, right? It's like, this is how it's working. It works. And then you stare at it some more, and you build more context. You build this stack in your mind of information. It's like, at circus, when they're doing with the balls like that in the air, it's like you're adding more balls, and they're keeping them all spinning in the air. And it's like more and more content. Okay, so now I'm flow charting. I know how this works. Started to understand the reason why this code is built like that. I can probably fix the bug, but wait. Did you check? Did you get my email? And boom. What happens when the person leaves? Back on square one. So interruptions are bad, really bad. And code reviews, unfortunately, sometimes are interruptions. That question might as well been, hey, can you review my code? So let's recap a little bit. Those are the human problems, human related. We have ego, we have cultural problems, and then we have time. So those are the issues I see that prevent teams from doing code reviews. But let's step back for a minute. Why should we even bother? Okay, what's this thing? Why should we have code reviews? We haven't done it in years, so why should we start now? What do you get from code reviews? First thing you get is code quality, higher code quality. And when I mean higher, I mean really high, like really that high. By the way, does anyone, I used to watch this as a kid. Does anyone recognize that? So that's almost all of you. I love you guys. E-Man. I even had this sword as a toy. And I used to run around the house. For the power of Grayskull. Yes, good times. So code quality is increased by having code reviews in place. The second thing is that you will probably find more bugs before your customers do, because you're reviewing your code in-house. Now you're doing the laundry in your home instead of doing it out in the open. So that's also a good thing. More defects found. Third thing is knowledge sharing. Because when you have code reviews, there will be a certain amount of knowledge being transferred among the team members. Everyone is an expert in something, and the code reviews get programmers to talk. And if they talk, they're going to talk about what they know and what they don't know. Questions will be asked, the answer will be given. And that way, around it goes. So knowledge sharing is also a nice side effect of having code reviews in place. And then you have the third thing, and it's that when the team is really working well together, and that's called synergy. By having code reviews in place as a standard practice, now people will learn to know what each other's strengths and weaknesses. And they will also learn to work out compromises when they have differences of opinions. And that will glue the team more together. It will create synergy, they will be more effective. It will, in other words, be teamwork. Because in the end, that's what we want. So, we have seen there are problems with the code reviews, human-related problems and time-related problems. If we all agree that code reviews are a good thing, let's see how we can turn those problems around and see how we can tackle them. First thing is something called the Big Brother effect. That has nothing to do with having sex on television. The Big Brother effect is that if you have code reviews in place at your workplace, people will feel absurd. They will know that at some point, someone will look at their code. And that will automatically put some pressure on them, on the programmers. They wonder, maybe they go an extra step to make sure all the tests are written or the code is well formatted. Okay? So just by having code reviews, that will create pressure. And programmers are a proud bunch, as we said, so code reviews will trigger their ambition, their strive for perfection. Because again, they don't want their code to be crappy when it's been reviewed, right? They want it to be excellent. So ambition will be triggered, and that's how the code quality goes up, right? And they will learn to give constructive feedback if they don't know already what it is. Okay? By having this code review process in place, people will learn to communicate. And that's also a good thing to have in a team. Because in the end, we are all on the same boat, right? Everyone on the team wants this project to succeed. And we should really believe that. We should really believe that the programmers in the team want to do their best. Given the tools, they will do their best, because no one wants the project to fail. And that will glue the team together. So code reviews have a lot of good side effects. Let's tackle this time thing now. We said the code reviews take time. We can't escape from that. But there are different kinds of code reviews we can do, and they have different time aspects to them. Well, actually, there are 6 types of code reviews, but let's boil down to 3. Okay, first one. It's called the formal code review. And that's when you open up Outlook or Lotus Notes. Anyone using Lotus Notes? Good, thanks. You open up Outlook and you book a room, you book a projector, sometimes you even book refreshment, sandwiches. Everything is booked in Outlook. And then this invitation is sent out to all the people, and then they meet all together with some experts, and then they go, okay, show us your code. And that's kind of scary, right? That's very formal, very strict. No, those guys, you can see they're serious. They even have a typewriter, which means they really know their shit, right? And you stand there as a programmer and say, oh, no, I don't want them to see my code. Those experts. So this is one kind of code review. It takes a lot of time, but also finds the highest number of defects just by being this formal, or because you need a typewriter. The other kind of code review is a little less formal. I couldn't find a better picture, actually. So these guys are very elegant. I don't know about you guys, but I don't wear a tie at work. And if I did, everybody will ask me if I'm getting married later in the day. So, okay, so what happens with this kind of code review? It's called over-the-shoulder code review. And basically what that means is that one person says, okay, let's gather around my computer and I'll show you my code. So that's less formal. No need to book anything in Outlook. No need to call the experts. Just you're in your friends looking at your code. And what happens? The person sitting at the computer goes, oh, and then I did this, and then I did that, and I changed this line. Don't look at that test. It's not finished yet. But let's look at this one overhead. And the other people are just like nodding, like, okay, yes, makes sense. What's the problem with this approach? One person is leading everyone by hand, walking through the diffs, and they don't have time to think by themselves. They don't have time to think, okay, how is it working together? This person is rushing through the code just to get it committed. But sometimes you might get lucky, because during a code review you might find out that, forgot a semicolon, I hope they won't notice, right? And then the other guy goes, what? So that's when it's good, when it's working. But most of the time, nobody will notice the semicolon, right? Especially if it's JavaScript. Okay, scratch that. And then there is the third kind of code review, my favorite. It doesn't have a name, so I call it async. Nothing to do with the C# keyword. I already got a lot of pushback. Hey, don't mess with the keywords. Don't call something async when it's not really async. But my point is, this kind of code review happens at a different time, on a different place than when the code was written. And the person who wrote the code doesn't even have to be there. It can happen somewhere else. So it's asynchronous. That's my point. That's why I say async. But it's kind of hard to picture this. How do you picture async, right? So instead, I put up a picture of nsync. That's the best I could find. So, this kind of code review is the most effective one, okay? Regardless of your musical taste. Any NSYNC fans? No? Oh, a couple? Rob, I knew that. You also like Backstreet Boys? Backstreet, all right. Okay, thanks a lot. So let's put this into a picture, right? So we have these three kinds of code reviews. We have, let's put them in a graph, because graphs are nice. On the x-axis, we have the time required to make this kind of code review, and on the y-axis, we have the number of defects, number of problems found in the code. Up in the corner, we have the formal code review. Takes a lot of time, but thanks to the typewriter, you'll also find the most number of defects, okay? In the lowest corner, we have the over-the-shoulder. It's very quick, just gather around, look at my code, yes, fine, okay, check in. But you also won't find that many defects. So right in the middle, almost too perfect to be true, is the async. It's a nice compromise of time required and number of defects. Because no one is getting interrupted. You can do the code reviews at your own time and pace. Okay? So that's actually the sweet spot. That's where you want to be, okay? So that's the kind of code review I propose that we all do, not the other kinds. But in order to do that, we need some tools, finally. All this talking, show us the tools, because tool time is the best time. So there are a few tools to help you do this kind of async code review. Some communication tools. Now, the last time I gave this talk at NDC, this product wasn't out yet, so I couldn't show it. But now it's in early access preview, and it's by JetBrains, company behind ReSharper and IDEA, if you're a Java programmer. They made a code review tool that's called Outsource. So I thought that this time I'll show you that one instead, because it's much better than the other one that I showed the other time. Not that it was bad, but it was really complex. But I'll mention it anyway. It's called Garrett. Anyone heard of Garrett? Okay, a few. Are you actually using it? That's what I thought. Oh, one. Okay. Yeah. So briefly, Garrett is a really, really advanced code review tool. Allows for very complex workflows, where the code review is not just a code review, it requires a certain amount of reviewers, and they have to give their votes, +1, +2, and then you have the verified flag, which can be set by a build server, for example, which automatically sets a flag, yes, it's verified, and then it gets merged. Complex. Also tied to Git. You can't use it with anything else than Git, because it takes advantage of how Git works with multiple branches and merging between branches and dynamically creating new branches. So Garrett only works with Git. Outsource, on the other hand, works with any, well, the modern revision control systems. So Subversion and Git, Mercurial, and Perforce, even. Okay, so that's actually more flexible, and it's more user-friendly, I would say. So if I have time, which I won't probably, look at my clock, I will show you also Garrett. But Outsource, since it's out now, I recommend that you use it. So let me walk over to the demo machine. Now lights are off, so please don't fall asleep. Well, we're still in the morning, so you should be still fresh. What do I do with the mic now? Can I just leave it? Still hear me? Yeah, but that's for the end. That's for the end. If the demo goes well, otherwise I will just lay it down. So, can you still hear me? Yeah? Good. Okay. So, I thought we should do a little game together. You get to review my code. How's that? Okay? Remember the culture thing. Remember what I said. Review the code, don't review me, the person. Okay, so we are in a... so I live a lot in the command line, so that's what I usually do. We are going to use Git as a source control system, and the code is C#. Any non-C# developers? A few? What are you guys using, just out of curiosity? Java? Okay, so they told me there is a Java conference going on right now in Warsaw. So maybe you took the wrong... Just kidding. No, seriously, isn't there? Yes? There is a Java conference going on, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, the language doesn't really matter. So, I'll show you what I would like to check in, okay? So this is a class. Can you all read the font? It's a class. This I would like to check into our, let's pretend we're a very large team. That's the code I've written. And I thought that you will give me some feedback, but not yet. I'll have to check it first, right? Because it's an async code review. So let me just save this file. Let me go out and let me do the usual dance, okay? Git commit, add credentials, very nice message. And then I'm going to basically push it to origin, okay? Oh, Okay, let's do what I would normally never do, which is push it to master. Directly. Are you guys all using Git? Yes? Okay, so I'm doing, what I've done is that I'm going to master. I took that commit. Now I'm going to push it to master. Good. And I'm done. I'm off to the beach. Okay? Async. So this is the web interface for AppSource. That's what you guys are using. You see? You even have your own account. Because we're going to play this game where I am let's pretend I'm a programmer, and, well, actually I'm a programmer. Let's pretend we are all on the same team. And right now, AppSource should index, if we are lucky, because AppSource is watching our repository. And when new commits come in, hopefully soon, they will show up over here, right? So let's give it a minute. Remember, it's still early access program. Oh, there it is. Do you guys see that pop up? That's me. I added this. And let's look at it, right? So you click on it, you see the diff, it's basically a whole file. So what you guys want to do now is basically review this code at some later time. So let's create a review. And I'm the author, and you guys are the reviewers. As you can see here, you can add more reviewers to the process if you think someone else should look at this code. And then you have the watchers. Not really sure what they're watching. Yeah. It's not that fun to look at a code review. Okay, so that's where you guys step in now. Let's increase the font a little bit. Maybe I can also hide this. No. Nope. Can you read this font? It's okay. As you see here, I can add, this reminds a lot of GitHub. You can annotate line by line with feedback. Okay? Okay, so go nuts. Go nuts. Any takers? What's wrong with this code? Is there anything wrong? Will you merge this?
Typo in the name of class.
Good one. Thanks. Thanks. It's called credentials. There's nothing to do with teeth.
Have you been built it?
That's another good point. Let's pretend that we have a continuous integration going on. So let's leave a comment here. Let's just write typo, okay? Oh, if I can write. Typo in the typo comment. So that day says typo.
Line 15 and 19. Assignment and comparison in the same line. This may be good, but you shouldn't do this.
Yes, that's exactly the kind of feedback I'm looking for. So that's a difference of opinion, right? That's a difference of style. That's what code reviews create. This is brought up. It must be for me. With this rogue, by the way, do you know this rogue Wi-Fi antenna going on? Yeah.
Line 18, you will never get to 90. Indentation.
Good. You guys are fast. You guys are fast. So let me annotate this one. So this is a style thing, you said. Bad style, not idiomatic. Rob, how do you spell idiomatic? Idiomatic. Is it like that?
You will get reviewed.
Like that? So let's say like that. Reminds a lot of C, maybe. C style.
Also, what is the purpose of the variable valid?
Well, it's to store the result. So this is a credential.
But you are still returning this as soon as you assign anything to this. Almost constantly.
Yeah, true. So you mean this line is unnecessary?
No, basically the purpose of this variable doesn't seem clear because you can return after has required length, it doesn't have, and then you can return after validate. So you really do not need this.
You carry on state that it's really not necessary.
So you guys are shooting away. That's good. Remember to be gentle. This code is an extension of me. Okay. So let's see. So I got a few. I missed something. So you said this variable isn't clear. You said something else. So there was. Sorry? Unreachable code. How could I miss that? Is it line 18? This one. Okay.
No, this will execute. The next one is unreachable.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So do you remember the Apple SSL bug? Does anyone remember that? Exactly. So that's what I reproduced in C#. So, well, what do you say? Is there a security problem here?
Line 18 will return the whole code.
Yeah.
So line 19 will never be reached.
Thanks. So this line will always be executed, which means the other part, the validate, will never run. Right? Validation will never happen. I see a lot of talking, so you guys are really thinking about this thing, yeah?
There's a worse error than that. Your braces are inconsistent.
It took 10 minutes. I thought it would be one of the first things to be noticed.
It's a religious file.
Yes, you mean here?
Yeah.
Yes. But let's talk about it. Is it wrong?
6 and 12, and you're not using Emacs.
I'm not using it. Oh, okay, but you can see that in the code review, right? Should I have a little footer? Is that written with Vim?
But actually, I don't know if this line has incorrect braces. They are inconsistent, but maybe it is the format you are following, and in this case, the line 2 is inconsistent.
You see then? Let's talk about it. Consistency is more important. Yes. But actually, I thought this is the low-hanging fruit, right? That is usually in a code review, the first thing you see, well, spelling error was the first thing, expected. I would expect the curly braces to be the second, but you guys went right for the functionality and behavior, which is good. It's good. So let's say inconsistent brace style. Okay. Anything more?
While we're here, can we talk about your walls?
Mai?
Your walls. The Hungarian Can we not have that?
Thanks. Hungarian notation. Yeah, I'm an old C programmer. What can you do? No, there is a saying about old dogs and learning to sit. So Hungarian. How do you spell that?
A-R.
Thanks. Where is the autocorrect? Where do you need it? Hungarian notation. We don't do it in 2014. Maybe like that?
Also, I should be read only also. Also, some people would say that lines 7 and 8, you are using this, which, okay, for example, ReSharper would tell you that this is something not needed, but some people agree that it's okay.
So that's another opinion. Yeah, we have something else over there.
And it should be read-only.
Fields should be read-only. Good one. Actually, they were, and then I took it out. But in my defense. Exactly, so I say. Nobody believes me. Okay, should be. Why is that? Let me ask you. Why is it better? Why should I have it read-only? Let me push back a little because I'm being fired out there. Let me push back. Why read-only?
So it's immutable.
And? Is immutable better than mutable?
Yes. Beautiful.
Yes, because if you start with immutable, you can always make it mutable if needed or if justified at a later time. However, if you start with mutable fields, you will have a tendency to change it.
Yeah, I want to change it, yes. I'm an object-oriented programmer. I'm all about changing state.
And there's more code if you write read-only.
There is more code if I write read-only, yes. One extra word that allocate about how many bytes in memory, so that's actually more efficient without read-only. Okay, should be read-only, let's say immutability for the win.
And if we remove the private, then we'll like drop the character count a bit. Private's a bit shorter than the read-only, but still it'll say.
So you would drop the private?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you said it, man. Drop the private. Because it's default in C#,
Yep.
isn't it? Sorry, as I said, I come from C.
So if we're going for immutability, why do we need the verify function? I mean, validity is also a state that will be immutable, so we don't need the function to be a state.
That's deep. So that's basically invalidating all the entire class. So let's write a comment, because you can also comment down there and comment the entire class as a whole, and let's say this class is, how will you phrase it? Absolutely unnecessary?
No, it may
Is it a good way to phrase it?
It may be necessary because as a container and also validate here. Okay, it depends. Maybe the
Oh, yeah. Let's stop right there. Okay. So I had enough feedback for and there was thank you. So now I'm going. So this is basically all the notes we made.
Excuse me,
Yes,
why did this happen 15 hours ago?
because it's Git. Yes. Yes. Good notice. Good note. Yeah. Good catch. Good catch. Good catch. So now I'm logged in as me, and I see a lot of feedback going on here. I look at the reviews. There is one going on so now I'm the author, and I say, okay, what I can do here is basically reply and say, yep, you're right, and stuff like that. So basically you can have a conversation going on for every note. We won't do that. What we will do is that I go back to the drawing board and basically fix the problem, right? Or at least a few of them, just to show you, because one of the things you do when you do code reviews, and we look at it briefly afterwards, is that you start by asking for a code review, then you gather the feedback, that's what we did now, and now the third phase is that I'm going to act on the feedback, I'm going to iterate, right? So let's look at iteration. So let me open up. Do you know that Vim, the VI, you know what it stands for? VI in Vim? Stands for victory. Thanks. It's not my line, but I use it sometimes. Okay, so let's see. Let's fix the most obvious one. One thing I noticed, nobody gave feedback on the comments. Are those comments necessary? Redundant? You missed that, guys. Nobody reads, exactly. So let's remove comment, double line. Oh. So what else? Well, actually, I am not going to fix anything because I'm opinionated. So I'm going to keep the Angara notation. Let's see. Let's fix the most. Type, exactly. That we can fix. Credentials. Also, nobody argued with the inheritance. I've been told inheritance is bad. Coupling.
we do not know what's in the space credentials class, so
Good point. Good point. It's good to not just criticize, oh, you shouldn't have inheritance. Because that's cargo cult, right? You should actually have a reason for what. All right. So now I made a few changes. And I'm basically gonna commit acted on the feedback. I'm gonna push it. So what happens in app source? We go back to the view. it's basically going to find the new commit soon. As you can see here on the right, you can have a view of, it's basically a feed of all the comments that are going on. So you can follow the conversations. And here you have a view of all the code reviews that are going on.
Can we sync this with Twitter?
With Twitter? Do you want to tweet my code? No, I don't think so. But one thing they are working on, I know, is integration with TeamCity. So if you're using TeamCity, I don't know how the connection will be, but maybe you can watch the code reviews going on in TeamCity, or maybe when you fix something and it breaks the build, maybe it sets a flag on the review. Something like Garrett does probably. So new revision, so I acted on the feedback. So this commit is part of the same code review, and that's important to be able to say that. It's not something unrelated, because the code base will change, and we need to relate the commits that are part of the same code review. So what you do is that you go into the code review.
What happens if you check in twice or more?
Yeah, you can add how many you want. The question was, what happens if you check in twice? You can go to revisions here. You can do add revision. So I add this one. There you go. So now this code review has two commits: the original one and the one where you acted on the feedback, right? And you can see that I fixed the typo. So you can say resolve this one. Okay, this one is being addressed. This one has not been addressed. And then you can go down there, let's say not idiomatic C#. You see the line is gone, so the note is gone as well. There is no note. Okay, let's say that this looks good, all right? This is okay for commit, for review. So basically, the reviewers set the reviewed flag, thumbs up. Okay? So what happened on my side, if I look at the reviews going on, I can see here that the dev.js said, okay, looks good to me, even if it doesn't. And so basically we're just gonna close this, right? So we go into this, and I'm just gonna close the review. So review has been closed, and the code stays in without further changes, okay? So there are no code reviews going on. So one thing to notice with this approach is that you can only review code that's already been committed to the branch. So if you think about GitHub with the pull requests model, you're basically committing changes to your own branch, and then you ask someone else, would you please take these changes and put them into the master branch of the project? But if the code review doesn't pass, that code will never show up in the branch, right? So it's actually an exclusive process. Here, it can only review code that's already been committed. Now you can say, yes, I can commit to another branch, and then when the code review passes, someone has to merge it and push it to master. Okay, so that's a difference with Garrett, for example. I think actually I have time. Do we have a turn 1040? I have time for Garrett. So let me show how Garrett works a little bit. So Garrett is admittedly not as pretty as AppSource. It's based on a fork of a tool that has been internally developed at Google, which I can never remember the name of. Yes, thanks, Monjian. Thanks. So that's been a fork of that, because Monjian was tied to Perforce, if I remember correctly, because that's what Google was using internally as their source control system. This version has been tied to Git, because that's what we like to use. So this works in a slightly different way. So let's take a look at it briefly, all right? So let's go back to our changes. And let me open up this file. Now let's say that I want to merge this file into master. and the review is going to take place with Garrett instead. Now remember that Garrett is tied to Git, so it takes advantage of the specific branching model that's in Git. So how do you ask for a code review? You do it by pushing your commits to a special branch, which doesn't really exist, because the thing with Garrett is going to host your Git repo. AppSource is a standalone server which you point to a repository, and it's going to watch that repository for incoming changes, but it's only something that lives on the side. Garrett wants to own your Git repo because it's going to catch all the things that are coming in and stop them there and allowing you to review them before they come through. So with Garrett, it's actually hosting your Git repo. So what do? You push to a special branch, and that special branch follows a naming convention. Let me show you how this looks like. So you do push. Now I fully understand that if you're not using Git, this looks like total gibberish. So let me ask you, how many of you are using Git? Okay, so that's about, I don't know, half or 60%. So this idea of pushing commits is that when you commit something in Git, you commit it only on your local copy. It doesn't end up in any server, like in Subversion or CVS or TFS, even. So commit only means it's committed on my machine. Then if you want to share your commits with someone else or with the server, you basically do a push. You send them over the network to another server. Origin, what origin means, now it's getting a Git lesson, but origin means is the address of the server. All right? So push origin means I'm going to push this commit to the server identified by origin. Where do you want to push it? In a branch called refs for master. Now that is the Garrett specific part. For master is a convention that Garrett follows. If it sees a commit is coming in with a for in the namespace, it's going to assume you want a code review for that. And you want to merge it to master. Okay? Of course, you're not going to write push origin, all that stuff all the time, so you make an alias, if you are in the command line, which you should be. You say git review. Oh, no new changes, because I should do pull, right? Already up to date. Ah, sorry, I didn't do any changes. Thanks. I should actually read the error messages. So let's make a change, a short one, right? What should we change? Let's remove the privates. Low-hanging fruit. So I made a change. Let's add it. Let's commit. Removes privates. Nice. And now I'm going to say review. Look what happens here. This part is not Git specific. It's Garrett answering. Because he's catching the commit. And it's telling you, okay, you want a review? Here is the URL of where we can discuss this code. So if we go into this URL, oh, I had it over here. Was it number 7? Yes, look at how ugly it is. Yes. Ugly as hell, but very rich of information. So here you can see the commit, and here are the files involved in the commit. You can even review the commit message, like if you have an opinion on that. Do you have an opinion on that? Awful? That's not an opinion. Okay, let's, oh, sorry, I have to sign in. Forgot to sign in. Let's do this. Because if you want to comment, it's better if you sign in. So let's go into number 7. Let's go commit message. Yes, you say it's awful? How would you like it instead? No problem. So we're done with this. So we made a note that reminds a lot of the other one. Now you see the diff here. I remove private. Any quick comment on that? Does it look good? Let's say it looks good. Running out of time. So you basically put a checkbox on those two, and that means yes. Okay, looks good. Now the interesting part comes, because you have a draft of comments, which means they are not yet published. And by the way, you can do everything from the keyboard if you want. This looks a lot like Gmail. They're probably the same people doing it. So you basically say, A, publish the comments, because everything is local, at least it's not published yet. And when you say publish, you get to give a score. You see how complex this is? But sometimes it's needed. You can say, looks good to me, but someone else must approve. Or approved. Okay? Because the thing is, you can always, here are the reviewers, you can always add more reviewers. Now it's only me in there. But you can always add more reviewers into the review. Okay? Add looks good to me. And then there is this verified flag. So it's two steps. One thing is the reviewed, looks good to humans. Verified could be set by a server, like a continuous integration server. Because Gerrit has a REST API, so you can have a CI server running all the integration tests, and if it passes, it sets the verified flag. And then and only then, it will be okay, but notice this. If a code review is passed, I can choose to let it be merged. Where? To the branch where I wanted it to be merged, when I said for master. So you can basically say submit, boom. Now it's been merged. I don't have to do anything else. Reminds a lot like the pull request model. So if I go back, and I can do a pull, it says to me already up to date. Because my commit has been branched into master, and now I already have it. Okay? So that was Gerrit. Let me wrap this up. What did we do? We did code reviews. Code reviews can be divided into 4 steps. First, you ask for code review. We see how you do it in AppSource, and you see how you do it in Gerrit. Okay? You gather the feedback, which you all gave me. Thanks. Thanks for your feedback. Then you act on the feedback. You do new commits. You add them to the same code review so that you know they are part of the same unit. And then you either accept or reject the code. Okay, so all code reviews go through these phases. Okay, in some capacity. So let me leave you with 3 concrete tips you can apply when you do code reviews. Okay. First, try to keep your commits small, and that applies regardless of source control system. Okay, it's harder if you have TFS. Because it's harder to divide your code into different commits, right? You have all your pending changes. The same goes for Subversion. Actually, once I saw a commit coming in, really, in a project. It was 156 changes in the file, in the commit. And the comment, can you guess what it was? I'm gonna tell you. It said many changes. I kid you not. We don't want that. We don't want to review those kinds of commits. We want small commits, focused, easy to review. All right? So keep your code commit small, and the reviews will be faster. Second, have a checklist. That really helps. Things to always look for in the code. And those can be specific for your language or platform or frameworks. Like in C#, you could say, okay, check for null references, or check for the argument exceptions. Make sure the braces are in the right place. Now, of course, if your language is JavaScript, that list will be empty. Nah, just kidding. You can do whatever you want. And another thing is keep your reviews under 1 hour. Now, I know that nobody in their mind will think about reviewing the code for more than 1 hour, because you have to check Twitter and email in the middle. But still, if you are following the formal code reviews where you actually have a meeting, which in some companies you do have to have, like for security reviews, for example, you might need to have a meeting. Keep the meeting under 1 hour, because after 1 hour, if you keep staring at that code, you won't see anything. It's not like the Matrix. The more you stare at it, and you can actually see, the people walking on the street. It doesn't work like that. So keep them under 1 hour. All right, so those are my 3 tips. And with that, I will say thank you for your attention. And we even have time, right? 5 minutes for questions. I can't believe it's true.
We are 5 minutes past time.
Are we? Okay, scratch that. If you have questions, you can catch me in the hall. Thanks.